Aloha mai kako. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be speaking alongside the other panelists and to all of you today in this forum. I'm here representing Nava Ekolu, which are the three waters or the three streams that flow through the Alawai watershed, Makiki, Manoa, and Pololo. Not only does this name describe our place, but it also describes the community of students and educators who have come together to aloha aina and to protect passage of our native migratory stream animals in one of the most urbanized watersheds of the state. But before we go into talking anymore about how we do that, we need to first quickly review what we're trying to protect.
Our native stream animals are amphibious, meaning they're migratory. Part of their life is in freshwater and part of their life is in the ocean. So adults and juveniles are older animals. When they get old enough to reproduce, they will lay eggs, where their babies will become larvae and go down to the ocean for several months before coming back to fresh water as post-larvae. We have 5 types of fish in our streams that do this, that have amphidremy, and they are all called oopu. We have 2 types of crustaceans. We call them opai. We have 2 types of mollusks in our streams. Besides being native species, besides having an amphibious life cycle, they have this amazing ability to cling and to climb. Here, these animals, they are climbing outside of the water. They can't tolerate being outside of the water for short periods of time as long as their gills don't dry up. And they're trying to get around some of these natural barriers that are in the stream that are very vertical. Some of these vertical barriers where the water is falling is like this waterfall right here. Many of these animals can get around these barriers and it's a part of their natural distribution. However, you might think, I can imagine how a shrimp may climb, I can imagine how a snail might climb, but I can't really imagine how a fish might climb. Well, they have an adaptation on the bottom of their body, which is a fused pelvic fin, which is shaped into a suction cup. And that allows them to stick to the sides of these waterfalls or cling to the bottom of fast flowing streams. And they can use their body again to shimmy themselves up around these natural barriers. However, when we think about non natural or human induced barriers that are those on the right, when we zoom in on these 2 sides, we can see that on the natural habitat side, there is cool, clear, fast-flowing water. There's a lot of boulders. There's no evidence of people. Native species are proliferating there, and their population and biodiversity is doing great. On this more urbanized side, there's a lot of landscape changes where we see bridge crossing, cars, homes, and a lot of concrete. Again, this channelization is really bad for water temperature, along with our native fish species that are very sensitive. What we find here are a lot of invasive species, particularly unwanted aquarium releases. Well, what are we doing in Nova Ekolu? So we have a lot of people in this community. We are trying to use their hands to help herd these animals downstream, using PVC sticks to make a lot of noise, dragging seines to help push them into these downstream nets, which are opai nets. As you can see, we catch a lot of fish. Afterwards, we need to make sure that we can sort invasives from natives, like that smallmouth bass, like that Opunakea, and these other types of invasives. Again, 2 different buckets because their fates are different. Natives are returned back to the stream habitat they came from. Invasives are unfortunately euthanized using clove oil. They are afterwards taken on ice to an agroforestry facility where they are composted and then turned into fertilizer, so nothing is wasted. To go on these field trips takes a lot of training. Our workforce is K-12 students, and they have to be familiarized with a lot of safety, a lot of equipment, working together, identification of species, and then separate them out into the correct buckets. So we have a lot of model fishes that they have to rehearse putting in these different buckets, and they get sized up for hobbies. Only afterwards, they can go on the field, and these students collect a lot of data. All these counts of animals and this biodiversity is all stored online and it's available for the public on our Nabai Ekolu website. And if you were to do a quick analysis of our data, we can see that percent of natives on an average field survey is increasing, and a percent of invasives survey is decreasing over time. And if you were to ask me how many animals does that equate to over time that are removed of that are invasive, that's probably about 41,600 and something. However, we do have a lot of challenges in the program, including having to do with weather, but it does help to have real-time stream gauges and real-time rain gauges that we maintain. And we also have a city and county either doing too much work maintaining these drainage basins and too little work in other areas. In this debris catchment, you can see in the top left. Sometimes we have homeless camps that pop up out of nowhere in our lower 2 sites, and that can really be a flat tire for our field trips. And speaking of flat tires, there's a lot of trash in the stream sometimes in our lower sites in the city, and have to remove all of that so that it's safe for students to work in, as well as it won't get caught up on the nets. Sometimes there's a bunch of green waste dumped into the stream, whether it's by people or naturally falling from trees, and then and I got to move all that stuff, and that you can tell is not easy to do. And the biggest challenge that we've had lately is COVID-19. So all lessons are typically very interactive in classrooms as well as in the field, but now it is all online. We can do this with me leading them virtually through video conferencing. They can do this asynchronously on their own with their teacher's instruction, and I can.
I'm so thankful for all the support that our program has gotten, and from all the hands, from all the hearts of all the community and the students and the educators who line our schedules day after day, an entire year. And it's so rewarding to see how much fun they have, how much they're learning, and how much they can contribute to real ecosystem change. And it's not really about that as much as what they're learning, the educational experiences they're getting outdoors and to protect native species, understanding why they're so special, why that our native species make us so different from other places in the world, and they need to be protected. And the more and more we lose of them, we become less and less special. Mahalo for listening to me, and I would like to take any questions at this time.